Welcome back to another baseball video for the All Takes No Whiffs podcast. We have another solid video lined up for this week. There haven't really been much going on in the free agency world. We'll probably be covering that up again next week after a couple names were signed today that I know one was from my team, who I'm a little disappointed we didn't resign, but we are going to be giving our top 10 catchers going into the 2023 MLB season. This is a very interesting list, and I really haven't seen that many catcher lists out there yet. So this is kind of just going off what we think. But this should be a really interesting one.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gary Sanchez was too good to put on this list, so we went. I'm kidding. Let's just get into this. Sorry about that in the intro. Gary Sanchez should be very far away from this list. But as for our real top 10 catchers in the MLB, to get things started, my number 10 catcher is Yankees legend Jose Trevino. Now, I know it's probably out of pocket to put him in the top 10, but he just won a Platinum Glove, best defender in the entire American League. That is no joke. That's something I think that deserves credit, especially in a position where defense is so important. Because honestly, when it comes to catchers, a catcher with a good bat is highly valued, but most of the times, catchers they get signed to teams because of what they do behind the plate. And Jose Trevino is second to none when it comes to the glove. And honestly, when it comes to the bat, he's not awful. He just doesn't really bring much pop to the table. But overall, I think he's kind of a fringe top 10 guy. And to fill out my 10 spot, I just decided to put my boy because rep the squad.
No, I don't blame you having Jose Trevino on this list, being one of your boys too. But since we can't add two the same heads to the same spot, and we got a couple people in different spots, for my list, I'll actually be putting the names up there for y'all. So Christian's will be the actual face, and mine will be their name. But for number 10, I have Cal Raleigh, the catcher for the Seattle Mariners. To be honest, I had a really hard time coming up with 9 and 10. There were a couple guys who we actually left off this list who we don't think are going to be primary catcher or really playing catcher anymore. Those guys are Dalton Varsho and MJ Melendez. Both of those guys have been playing outfield and DH a lot, so don't think they'll be in there. But I think Cal Raleigh had kind of a breakout year last year. The average is not really going to be there ever, but he hit 27 homers. And he had some really clutch hits for them. I know he had a walk-off home run to send them to the postseason. That was a great moment for them and for him. But that's kind of how how I'm feeling with catchers right now. There's not really that many great catchers in the league, to be honest.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the case, but it's all good. We're going to work with what we got. And number 10, Cal Raleigh. That's a respectable pick, in my opinion. Definitely a catcher that the Mariners, I feel like, can have behind the plate for the next couple of years at the very least. But for my number 9, I know you're excited for this guy, Alex, but I have Sean Murphy of the Atlanta Braves, former Oakland Athletic. This is a really solid catcher, in my opinion. He multifaceted. Definitely brings most of his value behind the plate. In my opinion, he's just top tier defensively in all aspects when it comes to blocking, framing, throwing down to second or third. He's just got it all in that aspect, and he's got a solid bat for catcher standards, in my opinion. This is going to be a plus for the Braves. I know the catcher position. I know you guys had Darno before, who was solid at times, but it was definitely something that needed to be addressed, and you guys picked up a real solid guy for that.
No, yeah, we traded a lot of good pieces away too, but it was definitely worth it, I think. That's someone who will be a little later up on in my list, though. But at number 9, I have the Cincinnati Reds catcher, Tyler Stevenson. This kid is around from where we are too. I actually played against him in high school baseball. So it was pretty cool to see him now make it and doing really good. He had a breakout year last year. batted around 280. Doesn't hit the most home runs, but honestly, you think he would because the dude's like 6'5", 6'6". Maybe that power will come into him this year, but I really like this guy. Always really have. So it's nice to see, or not nice to see, but that's where he is on my list at number 9.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Tyler Stevenson, he's got the tools. 6'5" catcher. I feel like that's. I don't see it often, but I think a big catcher is a
That's
plus. I don't know if
massive
that's a
for a
bad take.
catcher.
Exactly. Like I think that is a solid plus. That's just a bigger wall behind there, and he moves well for being six
He's
five.
solid defensively. He can
Yeah.
block really well, actually.
hmm And then the bat. I do think the bat is very solid. I like you said, he doesn't bring the most power to the table, but there's a lot of room for that because he's 6'5" and a giant. But he's really good at putting the bat on the ball, though, in my opinion. He's not going to be like one of the top average leaders in the whole league, but he's going to be one of the better catchers hitting for average. And yeah, for that reason, I actually have him at number 8. Tyler Stevenson definitely deserves the recognition because he's still relatively early in his career, but he's shown a lot of positive things to me, and hopefully he could just get out of Cincinnati whenever he can.
No, yeah, I mean, that organization, they've wasted Joey Votto's career. I feel bad for him, but maybe they'll start turning it around here. They did make some trades last year in this offseason that could bring back some solid prospects. But that's a little more to talk about later. But at number 8 for me, I have someone who was just traded from my Atlanta Braves. I have William Contreras. Pretty sure that he'll probably be the main catcher up there. If not, I mean, he'll be DHing. But this guy had an absolute breakout year last year, 25 homers, 70 RBIs. And really not that many games being played because at the beginning of the year, Travis d'Arnaud was the catcher. Then he took or had an injured thumb and surgery required for him to be out for majority of the season. But William Contreras, breakout year. It's kind of sucks that he's not with us anymore. Defensively, he is not the best catcher. He definitely makes up for it offensively. But I'm happy that he's on a team that is actually pretty good still, and he didn't go to Oakland. That would have been a little rough for him, but he's on a team that possibly could win their division next year.
Man, Alex, you're making these transitions smooth for me, man. I appreciate that. William Contreras, definitely a solid. I want to say a little more than solid. He's a really good catcher, in my opinion, which is crazy because he's not even the best between the Contrerases. We'll get into that shortly. But William Contreras, he was definitely huge for you guys last year. And even it sucked losing him, but you guys picked up Sean Murphy. So I don't think you guys are going to feel that too much. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing his 2023 season because, like you said, he broke out last year. And it was just a matter of getting the opportunity because, like you said, it was only because Travis d'Arnaud suffered a major injury that he got that sort of opportunity. But I don't know. I'm just looking forward to seeing more from William. And yeah, him being at number 7 right now, that's definitely a solid position considering not much was known about him before last year.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're a Braves fan, you knew all about him. I've known about him
Mm-hmm.
for a few years now, and I've been waiting for him to blossom, and he finally did. He did play for a few games. I'm not sure for a majority of the games in 2021 when we won the World Series, but Walker got a good catcher, not a good catcher, got a good hitter though. I'll say that. But the move on for my pick at number 7, I have Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays. This may be a little high on some people's list, but I just want to see this guy do what he did again last year, to be honest. Was an all-star in his rookie year, had a really, really solid year, both behind the plate and at the plate. So, dude can do it both ways. So, He's on a really good team too. And also another reason why I kind of have him down this far is because Danny Jansen is another solid catcher, and I think he may take some time away from him just to give him some breaks or maybe in at DH.
I feel that. I kind of feel the same way about Kirk, but my thing is with how I guess I don't want to say like the lack of depth at catcher, but it kind of is. I feel like I had to put him higher because he is coming off of a great season. He was an all star. And at the same time, him being a Blue Jay kind of throws off my opinion on him. I'm hoping Trevino is up higher on this list come next year. But yeah, no, Alejandro Kirk, I feel that. I feel what you're saying. I'll be talking about him in a little. But as for my number 6 catcher, I've got one of the most highly touted prospects in all of baseball. Not a prospect anymore. You got Adley Rutschman of the Baltimore Orioles. Uh, this guy is he's filled with talent. Switch hitting catcher, that's not something you get often. Premium bat at catcher, not something you get often. And really solid behind the plate defensively. That's a little normal for MLB catchers. But no, he brings it all to the table. And considering that the youth behind him and all of that, I know it might be a little much to say he is one of the 6 best catchers in the major leagues off of a season that wasn't even a full one. But I guess I'm kind of taking into consideration the potential because with Adley compared to anybody else on this list is like you just know that that potential is going to be reached some way, like maybe not exceeded, but definitely reached. Adley is going to be a force in this league, I feel like, for a while. So I might just be putting my stock into him now. Number 6 catcher in baseball for me.
Yeah, I'll get into Adley here in a minute. But for number 6 for me, I have the guy who my Atlanta Braves traded for, and Sean Murphy. I think this dude is gonna put it all together this year. We've seen him do it in the minors. We know how good he is defensively, one of the absolute best defensive catchers in all of baseball. It's just that I'd like to see more consistency at the plate with him, and I think he's going to be doing that this year, especially since he's not really the focal point in the lineup anymore. He's in the Atlanta Braves lineup. From what I've seen, projection wise, he's going to be number 6. That's a very important spot in the lineup, to be honest. He's going to be driving in a lot of runs. He's going to have a lot of RBI opportunities, and he's going to be batting behind probably. I would probably have to assume Ozzy, maybe Travis d'Arnaud, depending on who's there at 5th. But I think he's going to have a breakout year offensively this year, and I'm just happy he's on my team, to be honest.
Oh yeah, for sure. As I said, he brings it all, especially when he's on top of his game. My favorite thing about him is just how athletic he is.
Hmm.
I feel like that is a key factor in his versatility defensively. He's really athletic, and that's a huge plus for you guys. To be honest, I'm kind of glad to see you guys pick up catcher and Sean Murphy. But for my number 5, longtime veteran, one of the most recognizable catchers in baseball, you got Salvador Perez of the Kansas City Royals. Salvi, uh, you can make an argument for him. I don't want to say for Hall of Fame, but like just one of the, I guess, more recognizable names of this generation for baseball because he was obviously part of that really successful Royals run when they won in 2015. And not just that, he had a bit of a crazy resurgence in 2021. Hit an insane amount of home runs. I don't even think he showcased power like that at any point before in his career. Just came through man on a mission. Regressed a little bit this past season, but I have him at 5, based off mostly reputation and what we know he's capable of if he's on top of his game. Salvi, when he's on top of his game, that man, he's crazy. That 2021 season, that was the last thing I expected from Salvi. I thought that was about to be like a send off season, but no, Salvador Perez, he is still a top 5 catcher in baseball to me.
Everything spot on with Salvi, one of the best catchers that we've seen as we have grown up. I think he's the only one from that 2015 World Series team, or whenever they won it. I think it was 2015. So nice to really see him around. But I'll talk about him a little more in a second. But at number 5, I have who Christian at number 6. I have Adley Rutschman. This dude has all the talent in the world. Christian was spot on with everything he said earlier. He is very good defensively. He is very good offensively, and I mean, calling games, he's good too. And that's something that you want to see in a young catcher. A lot of these young catchers aren't calling their own games. The coaches in the dugouts are calling them, so it's nice to see that. But this is a guy, honestly, who I would not be surprised if they are number one on this list next year. What Adley did after he got called up this past season was pretty insane. He had a really slow start, actually. Did not start off very well, but I think he batted like 350 in the last month and a half or something, and he went absolutely off. And that's the potential that we all saw out of him and why he was a top 3 prospect. For majority of his time, he was a prospect.
Yeah, man, that point you said about him being number one on this list come next year, more likely than not, to be honest with you. Him with a full season and already getting that experience under his belt, Adley's going to be a problem in this league for sure, and I'm looking forward to when that happens. But for my number 4 catcher in the MLB, I've got the brother, Wilson Contreras. This man, he's been solid for a while, I feel like, but the season he had last year, it was pretty wild. The bat, he showed up like crazy with the bat. The power was through the roof, and he really did his thing. I'm just glad to see that. Even though he's, like I said, he's been consistently like a recognizable name. I think he upped his stock a lot this past season, and yeah, he's just a premium catcher in my opinion. Not the best defensively, but that bat.
Yeah, I mean, that bat's good, and I mean, the arm makes up for it defensively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that arm's absolutely ridiculous behind the plate. Isn't very accurate at times, but it can make up for it. I'll talk about him here in a second. But at number 4 for me, I have Salvador Perez, who Christian has at 5. Like Christian said, this is kind of off reputation and what he's capable of, what we know he's done, and kind of that resurgence he had in 2021. He hit 35 homers that year, I think. Actually, I think he hit more than that now that I think about it. I think he got into the 40s.
He either got into the
But
40s. I'm kind of like thinking of
or it was
38.
close. Yeah, or it
Yeah.
was close. But I mean, that's just something we were not expecting out of him, especially because of the COVID year in 2020. I don't think it was very good, to be honest. And the year before that wasn't either. But this has been a very solid catcher for pretty long time now, and I'm happy to see him in the league still. He is on a team that is filled with young guys, so that's a big mentor role I feel like this year. But I think Salvi, honestly, on a bunch of lists that you see this year that people make, I can see him being as high as number 2, to be honest, for a bunch of people. But me, in my eyes, I see him at number 4.
Yeah, I feel that. Hopefully we're not looking forward to some regression from Salvi. I want to see him in the league for a good amount of time because
Mm-hmm.
Salvi's fun to watch, to be honest with you. But for my number 3 position, this is the top 3 right here, the cream of the crop for these catchers. I got Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays. I know Alex has him down at number 7. But for me, the season that he's coming off of, it was outstanding, to be honest. He really did his thing for the Blue Jays. I don't want to say inserted himself into that central core, but I think that's going to be somebody that they want to hold on to, especially with the fact that they traded away Gabriel Moreno. Yeah, I think they're kind of set with Kirk, and coming off an All-Star season. I know Alex said that he's probably going to get a good amount of rest with Danny Jansen being there now, but even with that in mind, I think Kirk is about to, I don't want to say exceed his standards going into next season, but I think he's going to be able to replicate it, which was a very good season. So top 3 in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, and I like that point you brought up. I would say Kirk is part of that core now. I mean, you trade away the top catching prospect in all of baseball to keep
True.
him. I mean, I would say he's part of that core now. That's a really
That
good
is
point,
true.
actually. I never even thought about that, to be honest. But at
That
number
with
3, oh no, you go ahead.
That and then picking up some versatility with Varsho. I know he's probably not going to get much time back there, but I feel like that gave him some more comfort in making that move, giving up Gabriel Moreno.
No, yeah, and I mean they got some solid stuff back for him. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, getting Varsho back is definitely good. But at number 3 for me, I have who Christian has at number 4. I have Wilson Contreras. I think this dude is really, if he was better defensively, I probably would have him at number 1. But I mean, his defense is just not very good to be honest. He's an unworldly hitter to be honest. Dude broke. I wouldn't really say broke out last year because we already knew what he was capable of, but he just added on to that to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kinda disappointed with his contract. I thought it would be a little more than what he got. I think it was 5 years, 75 or 5 years, 85,000,000, but, I just expected him to get a little more money, but he's on a team that is very good. He is not the focal point of the offense anymore, being up there in Chicago, he kind of was last year, and he's got a guy who won the MVP last year, and then Nolan Arenado, a former MVP. So he has a solid group around him, and then you got some younger guys who blossomed last year. So this is going to be one scary lineup this year. I think this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
probably a top 5 lineup in all of baseball this year with the St. Louis Cardinals. And adding Wilson Contreras to it, I mean, they're doing everything
That
right over there.
that very well could be the case. The Cardinals definitely have a lot of potential in that lineup. Uh, we just got to wait and see though, because while they do have a lot of potential, I feel like they're not necessarily like the best offensive team on a consistent basis. But who knows? The Cardinals definitely got the pieces. I'm looking forward to that. Before we get into our top 2 catchers in the MLB, we want to just give some quick honorable mentions. And the first name I want to throw out is Travis d'Arnaud. He was a solid piece for you guys for a while, for sure. I know he still potentially could be some impact, but the injury last season, that was kind of a big thing. And not just that, d'Arnaud, he's kind of a hot or cold kind of guy. Like, if he's on, that's somebody I definitely want in my lineup. But when he's cold, it's not fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't blame you having Travis d'Arnaud as an honorable mention. I honestly thought about putting him in at 10, but I don't really think he's gonna be playing that much anymore. Or actually he might be at DH. We don't really know, but Sean Murphy's kind of taken over that role. An
Mm-hmm.
honorable mention for me is Yasmani Grandal. Yasmani Grandal had a huge regression last year, all around offensively and defensively. So I'm kind of hoping maybe for a resurgence. I know he is kind of getting older, but Yasmani Grandal has been known for his defense in the beginning of his career, and then the offense came later on. So hopefully that'll happen, but that's an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, I feel that. Yasmani, I was definitely a big fan of him and his ability, but last year was tough to watch. But another quick honorable mention, I want to say Christian Vasquez. A little hard considering that's a former Red Sox, but no, I want to give credit where it's due. Uh, he's okay with the bat, but he really shines defensively. And my favorite thing about him is how much pitchers trust him. As a former pitcher myself, there's not many things that feel better than a catcher that you have full trust in. And it seems like regardless of the pitcher, he has a good relationship with them. And I think that's probably one of the things that gets talked about the least. That is like one of the most important things, the pitcher catcher relationship. And Vasquez, he does it better than basically anybody else. So definitely deserves an honorable mention.
I know he definitely does. And another guy I'm going to give an honorable mention to is I think he'll be a rookie again this year. I'm not quite sure, but Kerbert Ruiz for the Washington Nationals. This guy was part of the Trey Turner and Max Scherzer trade that sent them to the Dodgers, and I think this guy is just going to be really solid. He's been a highly touted prospect for the past couple of years. And I don't really have too much more to say about him. I just really like this guy, and hopefully he won't be doing too much damage right now because he's with a bad team. But I mean, it's going to be a very bright point for this team this year. Him and CJ Abrams, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And he's got a lot of room to grow. So maybe we could see him breaking this list at some point in his career. But back to the list. But the guy I have for number two, drum rolls. I got Will Smith of the Los Angeles Dodgers. This wasn't a hard pick. Going up higher or closer to the top of this list, it got a little easier, to be honest. And Will Smith definitely deserves credit. He's been good for the Dodgers for a while now. And honestly, consistently one of the more underrated names in their lineup whenever they're killing it because I don't know. I feel like when the Dodgers are playing at their best, it's always Will Smith is going absolutely crazy. But at the same time, all the protection he has in that lineup, I guess you could that's a counter argument against him. But no, I think this guy's going to produce regardless of what team he's on, and top two catcher for sure in my eyes.
Yeah, I think 1 and 2 are pretty solidified. I think everyone's gonna have probably these guys at 1 and 2, but I have Will Smith at 2 too. But, I think Will Smith all around, just a great catcher. He does everything well. He doesn't do anything really elite, except for maybe defensively, but he's just solid all around and a very, very good team already. So I see what you're saying about how the protection and padding around him can maybe add a little more to it, but I still think if this guy was not on a very good team, I still think he would be putting up probably the same numbers, if not maybe a little less than what he is doing already.
Yeah, but even then, he's just a elite catcher overall. But for my number one guy, this guy has been at the top. I feel like for quite a while now. I have my
Hmm.
opinions on him to be honest with you, but like just straight up, when it comes to output, I feel like he's still number one. I got JT Realmuto of the Philadelphia Phillies. He uh solid all around. I want to say definitely elite with the glove. Uh, Defensively, he's very versatile. I feel like the same thing with Sean Murphy. His athleticism plays a big factor towards that. Something that with JT Realmuto, he is definitely one of the fastest catchers in all of baseball. Uh, and that's I feel
Probably
like an
the
asset.
fastest.
Yeah, you rarely see that asset in a catcher. So that's another plus. I guess a plus in base running. That's something that you don't get from a catcher all the time. And then with the bat, that's where I have my opinions on JT Remuto. I'm not big on JT's bat, but I feel like considering how we value catchers, I don't put too much of an emphasis on it. But at the same time, I'm not too big on it. But he's still the best catcher in baseball, even with that in mind.
Yeah, he is the best catcher in baseball, and I don't think it's really even close. I mean, if you take the base running aspect into it, I mean, you don't see catchers like this at all. He had a 2020 season, I think, last year. I don't know if it was last year, but I know he's had one before. He had 21 stolen bases as a catcher. That's not heard of. And he's projected
Nuts.
to have 20 again this year. So, I just don't see how you don't have him at number one. His bat isn't the best, but I mean, he's not going to strike out a lot. He's going to put the ball in play. He's not going to hit a bunch of homers, but he's just a solid bat to add to that Philly lineup that is going to be absolutely stacked this year.
Without a doubt. It's going to be
Until
exciting to
Bryce
see how
Harper gets
Philly.
back, though.
Yeah, not facts. It's going to be exciting to see how this Phillies team bounces back after a World Series appearance, and hopefully JT Romuto holds on to that number one position because until he regresses, like you said, uh, it's not going to be really close until Adley. I feel like breaks out completely.
Yeah, and there's a couple people that are calling out for a regression from Real Muto this year. I think he's 32 or will be 32 this year, and is we all know catchers don't age the best. So could be something to look out for. Could have maybe a new number one catcher at the end of this year, but I'm sure we'll be doing more stuff like this in the future. I know we're going to be doing every single position, a tier list for it, and this is just the first one.
Oh yeah, definitely a solid first one. I know when it comes to star power, it's not going to compare to the other ones, but This was an underrated one. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, we wanted to get this one out of the way because it doesn't have all the superstars like a bunch of these other positions have. Because catcher is looking at all the other positions is kind of weak compared to the other positions.
But it's all good. They still deserve a shout out. They're catching at the highest level, and yeah, this is our top 10 catchers in the MLB.
And that does it for another baseball episode for the All Takes No Whiffs podcast. Had a great time coming up with our top 10 catchers in the MLB going into this season. I know that it may be a little controversial to some people, but hey, this is our opinion and what we think. And we'd love to hear what y'all think about it in the comment section. Let us know who you think your top catcher is, and let us know if you think someone should be on this list that wasn't.
Yeah, and if you guys want, you can let us know in the comment section, or you can let us know at any of our social medias. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, all at ATNW Podcast. And if you guys want, you can also find my personal Instagram and Twitter at Christian_S52.
And if you want, you can find mine at ahendy2215. And also, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications to know when we post new content if you like what you saw.
As for our next baseball episode, look forward to our top 10 first basemen of the MLB. That one's going to have a little more stars on that list, and I'm looking forward to that one. But until then, peace.
Peace.